All right. Hopefully we've resumed all right. Okay, cool. Yep. Yeah, so looking at the idealism here, great movements, new change has always come through the idealists and the visionaries. And I still very much believe in a single global currency. What has taken place has really been a clash in how we get there, but I still believe that a single global currency is going to emerge. And, we all take risks and gambles when we have to choose sides. And so I'm not afraid of, choosing sides, especially if it happens to be an unpopular one, if that's what I believe as well. And if, even from the SV side, they say beliefs don't matter, but they do in my world. And it's important to take a look at this. So what I'm actually going to do now is share with you guys how I see how all the personalities in the ecosystem actually pan out, and why what I actually see here taking place. Okay, so I'm going to screen share again. Let's go. All right, we got here now wealth dynamics. So there's something called wealth dynamics. It's wealth dynamics square. It's based off of the I Ching. All right, so it's a mix. This was developed by a guy named Roger James Hamilton. Okay, so here we've got this square. All right, and in this square, the wealth dynamic square is actually based around helping entrepreneurs find the path that works best for them. The premise is that everybody has their own strength. No one is better than the other. But once you know what your strengths are and you decide which game you want to play, then you follow that path. All right, because that's going to be the best for you. So a lot of the time, what you will see happen is people. And let me just see if I can bring this. Open image on new tab. Oh, that's great. Black background. Not useful. Okay, we'll do that. All right, so what you see happen is when somebody gets to a place of influence or power, they will, take their lessons learned and see and share with everybody what they think is their recipe for success. All of them can be right. But they're all sharing that from the viewpoint or angle of their game, their path, and their strength. Okay, so you can see here the green is innovative, the red is magnify, extroverted, sensory timing in the yellow, and multiply, introvert. All right, each of these sides also are looked at as. Let's see if I can get the actual elements. Okay, you got Dynamo, Genius, so spring, summer, autumn, winter. I think actually that's probably the best way to. So spring, summer, red, autumn, yellow, winter. All people kind of their strengths fall into one of these 9 profiles. And what I see is players like Craig Wright on the SV side, Satoshi Vision, the languaging, the personality is very much in the innovation spring phase, and I would probably put him as either a mechanic or a creator profile type. And these guys are actually really well known for setting great visions, right? We call this the wood, the springtime, and that can get people inspired quite well. But they can also be on the unbalanced side, too idealistic, right? Too head in the clouds. And so when you're forming a team, you actually need to ground it through, profiles in the other areas. And so on the summer side, you've got folks like Jack Welch that you can see there. He was manager of the century for GE. And his style of leadership will be all about the people. All right. So whereas at the top, you've got Richard Branson here, creator type. He's going to be all about ideas. I mean, he is actually very much for people too, but he will usually put ideas or creation. Steve Jobs is also known as a creator. It is about the ideas. The ideas matter, and they can pump out ideas that are really good. Whereas some of the other types, they may have ideas, but they might not always be the best. All right? And all of this is about execution too. Then you've got the star profile over here, Oprah Winfrey's. So the way that they succeed is through the strength of their personality, the strength of their personal brand. So you might see a lot of people say, hey, if you want to be successful, you need to work on your personal brand, and that's how you're going to make lots of money. Not necessarily, not always. It's going to be, if somebody's got a propensity for a star profile makeup, then that might work for them. But, understanding this has actually been really helpful for me in terms of understanding personalities in general of people, especially in the wealth space or the entrepreneurial space. And then also figuring out how to grow communities, change cultures, because I've been a professional community manager for a good number of years now, and I've used this to be able to do some of those things. So you got the star profile, Oprah Winfrey. I think other people, Ellen DeGeneres, a lot of probably actors are in that star profile. But then you got Blaze. So Blaze over here, supporter profile. As I said, they are summer people. So they burn brighter with strong wood. So they're going to usually partner up with these creator types because they just shine more brightly when they have strong, innovative products and ideas to be able to burn wood with. All right. But these creator types need these types of folks here as well. I think the downfall is if these types here are saying that they don't need any one of the other areas to actually grow beyond just the idea. This is harmony. This is yin and yang. This is how I see it. All right, and so you've got that fire there, right? And then you've got the deal maker, Donald Trump. You can see here the difference between, say, an Oprah Winfrey and a Donald Trump. It's actually a bad thing when a deal maker tries to be a star, and we actually saw this when Donald Trump tried to, get into the TV business, the reality TV show with, what's that show? Celebrity Apprentice or The Apprentice. I believe that they actually lost a lot of money there too. Whereas, the Oprah Winfrey as a star profile, their value is gonna go up by being less accessible. The deal maker's value actually they become more valuable when they are more accessible. Okay, because they're supposed to be about timing, and it's all about being grounded. Right, so innovation, spring, look at that as like head in the clouds, and then the bottom, timing, that's ear to the ground. All right, that's the timing bit. Okay, so then you can see here they go into the trader types. These can also be, I think, your Mahatma Gandhis, your Mother Teresa's. They're going to be all about customer service. So once again, going back, these types, their language is going to be a lot about big picture thinking. The ones down here are going to be a lot about taking care of the customer sort of thing, and it's going to be about just like reacting, responding. Whereas the folks who have their head in the clouds, they're going to be able to have a bigger picture view. All right, and then the summer people are the sort of bridges between heaven and earth. Right, they can hold the fort on the ground, but they can also anchor the innovator types from being too much with their head in the clouds. Then you've got the accumulator, Warren Buffett, and if you're just tuning in, the reason why I'm sharing this is so that you can understand the frame of reference I'm using when I'm actually making some of my decisions as well about, how to navigate this, all the players within the blockchain, Bitcoin, crypto ecosystem. All right, so accumulator Warren Buffett, you can see here, he doesn't really need to even build any new innovative products like Steve Jobs or Richard Branson, right? He just makes his money by accumulating. Through stocks, shares, products that have already been made, and squeezing as much as possible out of those deals. All right, and Warren Buffett has gotten stuff wrong too, but you'll notice actually the ones who are a lot about control are the ones in the steal area, the multiply, introvert, steal, winter phase. These guys are the ones who are pulling the strings behind the scenes. Your spring, summer people over here, so the green, red, they're the ones that you see a lot of the time out on social media, etc. Right? But they might not always be the one with the most amount of money. This is the interesting part. The ones with the most amount of money, not always. I'm saying like these guys here, because they actually don't care about being seen. They don't care about getting accolades or whatnot. They just care about the checks coming through the door, and as long as they're making their money, they're happy, right? So you got your bankers, and just imagine the steal. I think Game of Thrones too. I think they had the Iron Bank or something like that. Like that's a perfect analogy of these types here. They don't care about social media and personalities and whatnot, which is probably where I see the SV side, and probably why I also think that they are on the right path. Because if you've ever worked in corporate too, you may notice that they don't require having a strong social media presence in order to make lots of money. Since the crypto world, especially Bitcoin, is about money, um, understanding that world and how it works, and that actually, social media doesn't have much to do with the success of how money flows. It's telling, right? Um, I think one of the issues that I saw, or the problems, and I'm just making sure that everything is still going through. Yeah, one of the issues I saw within even the Bitcoin Cash community and many other crypto communities, adoption is important, right? And I would say we're probably in that the spring summer phase, right? Um, Still, and it's important to have people feel like there's a sense of community, but because of the nature of the technology that we're dealing with, money itself needs to be neutral, in my opinion. And it won't matter what community is associated with money when it hits the masses, when it goes everywhere, right? Any sort of morals and this goes for both sides. I'm talking to SV and also ABC camps. Um, None of our idealism matters. Rules may not apply because money needs to flow. And it's just very interesting to see, who associates with any of these types. Everybody, human beings. What I've noticed in communities, human beings are um, always follow a leader eventually, right? Or they always end up leaning towards particular figure types because they represent what they believe in. And so we see this as well in the crypto world, and that has now had a big impact effect on the entire market. So let's just bring up coinmarketcap.com. All right, just going to bring that up as well. Okay, so here you can see, and this is interesting. XRP. A lot of people have actually started purchasing Ripple. It's going to be very fascinating. But yeah, you can see here there's a big, massive drop, and this was midweek, end of last week. All right, so there was a massive drop that was actually caused by the Bitcoin Cash hash wars. Okay, so it just tapered off like that. Now, I did see a few tweets recently about XRP. People like, screw crypto. I might as well just put my holdings or my money into Ripple now because it's they've got the institutional partners, and in some respects they've gotten it right. Like they've understood because it's money and they need to establish good partnerships with people in that world. But yeah, Bitcoin Cash tapering off now. We have Bitcoin SV, we have Bitcoin ABC, but that might roll back to Bitcoin Cash BCH. It's a bit confusing even for myself, I gotta say. And it is messy, and unfortunately for people who are holding Bitcoin Cash, may not be able to do much with it until this is sorted. So, as I repeat again, if you have Bitcoin Cash with you right now, hold it. Try not to do anything with it. And excuse me, runny nose, probably from not sleeping from these hash wars things. And yeah, it has been a mess. I'm definitely sad about it. It's fractured a lot of relationships within the Bitcoin Cash community as well. You've got scenarios where the enemy of my enemy is my friend, so people that Bitcoin Cash were against are now supporting one of the sides within the Bitcoin Cash splitted community. And yeah, so it's been a bit nuts. There were a few live streams that went out, which was actually pretty good. One of them was hashwar.live. All right, let's see. All right, so yep, this particular website is powered by Bitcoin Cash on chain, so it's quite interesting. And yeah, they did a free live stream for it, which was cool. Had some technical issues because I think it was the first time that we had a fair few people on watching it during everything, but definitely worth checking out. There was another competing live stream, CoinSpice, YouTube. Let's bring that up. And just note, it is a weekend. And I'm currently moving around because I'm actually moving to Singapore at the end of this month to be in the heart of all this blockchain crypto stuff. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, let me bring this. So you can see here there's a few. So CoinSpice did a epic, props to the CoinSpice gang.
Here you are, folks.
They did
Okay.
an epic 12-hour live stream of the entire thing, and they brought people in from all sides, all camps, right? So from the Bitcoin SV side, the ABC side, BTC. I think even Vitalik from Ethereum made an appearance as well. And that just goes to show that there are still a lot of quality people in the Bitcoin Cash space. They're quality human beings everywhere. But when it comes to these type of things, it is like a sports match, and people do take sides, because when the mining hash war began, it's like going, okay, which team are you going to be cheering for? That's how I saw it. And of course, like in real life, you do have some people who take the sport extremely seriously, and were very passionate, fanatical of the side that they took. So for people who have been asking about why I may not be as fanatical, because although I support SV, I still take my beliefs out of judging a human being too harshly, in the sense that I can still have conversations with people regardless of what they believe in. This is about technical stuff around the future of money. Maybe a different thing if we're talking about, if you believe in killing people or something like that, I may have a very different response. But at the end of the day, we're talking about technology here. And I understand that people have their vested emotional views in it, but I just refuse to point fingers and slam others who believe in something different to me. Whether they are right or wrong, that's not for me to judge. Other people can be vocal about that, but I tend to take the Miyamoto Musashi way. He wrote the Book of Five Rings. Hey-ho, the middle way, as much as possible. I understand, though, in life, yin and yang, you're always going to have these moments in time where you will have to decide, and I'm never afraid to make a decision when I need to. So, with that...
I have another question then. So
let's see if I can get...
There's minimal disruption on his platforms.
SV, that's completely fine. Didn't work out, and he'll adapt. That's what he does.
Right.
And Money Button is, I would argue, is the coolest thing we have on Bitcoin Cash.
Absolutely.
Maybe after Cash Shuffle, but it doesn't matter. Like
Shout out to Jonald.
Ryan is on our team.
We should speak about that a little bit as well.
Okay, so this is Andreas Brecker.
Wonder if
there was a lot of really valuable content I found in this 12-hour live stream. So shout out again. I'll put a link to the address if you're interested in it. Highly recommended. So we had that live stream. The Keyport one, as I said as well, it's a really good use case for Bitcoin Cash as well, in terms of showing what you can do on it, and what it's capable of. On Keyport, essentially, what you see there, although this live stream was free for everybody, the idea is that actually you'd pay per second of view time on it, so that negates the need for for any advertising. Interesting idea, but that's how it works. All right. So if we just go back to the wealth dynamic stuff again, and as I mentioned, excuse the sniffling, change in weather. So you've got all these different personalities, all right? Now, if I was to kind of put everybody into these different spots, where would I put him? Craig Wright, personally, I think he's either a mechanic or a creator type. The creator types can often be very socially awkward. If any of you have actually seen Sir Richard Branson live, he is kind of awkward. Now, Craig is awkward in the sense that, like, he's just abrasive. Like, he just does not give a shit. And he's not worried about being nice or any of those sort of things. He just does what he wants, right? And he is a smart guy. And he is a creator, as you can see from the number of patents that he's filed and the amount of content and stuff that he puts out. And he's the creator types are often miles ahead of everybody else. So, I've heard a lot of people talk about, oh, Craig Wright just spills like technobabble. Everybody in the blockchain space speaks technobabble, right? It's relative. So to me, that's often like a non-argument. But the thing about Craig Wright, and if you're wondering who Craig Wright is, just bring a picture up of him so you can see. Dun, dun, dun. All right. So already there you can see him flipping off somebody. So this is Craig Wright, the controversial figure within the Bitcoin blockchain space. And, a lot of people say that, he's one to ignore. This hash war showed that probably shouldn't ignore him and the nChain crew as much as you think. Because Craig and his team and those who support him, the way that I've been fortunate enough to spend time with both Roger Ver and Craig. And with Craig, I mean, I made my judgment already on him, and there's a reason why I support SV. But he does know a fair few things, and I don't think him and nChain are stupid enough to make the sort of declarations that they have without knowing something. They've been in the game just as long as some of the other OGs, right? Now, whether that will matter or not in the long run is we will find out. Nobody really knows what will happen in the future. But if there's one thing I have learned, always pay attention to the crazy ones, or the seemingly crazy, because they just might be right. And if they are, there are consequences for that too. If they are, then I think a lot of people will have a lot of conflicting emotions. All right. Recently, there also was a rumor that Satoshi is back from the dead and moved signatures, or moved a key. Let's see if we can bring it. Look at that. The account has been suspended already. So this means probably people have already reported Satoshi. So some things were said from the Satoshi profile timeline. And, a lot of attention was not put to it. And it goes to show, because in the Bitcoin space, a lot of people have been saying, Satoshi, this is actually what Satoshi meant. And everybody had their interpretations of what Satoshi meant. But really, the only person that would know, or the key person of Satoshi, they would know what Satoshi meant. All right? And Satoshi, the story goes that he did come out, or he was flushed out at least, to say that he was Satoshi. And then there was a flip-flop with Craig. With the proof and what have you. But at the end of the day, he's been consistent in some of these contradictory statements. And that's what's been fascinating about him and interesting. Roger Ver has also been consistent with his messaging around Bitcoin being peer-to-peer electronic cash that is fast, cheap, and reliable. Damn, I can even remember it, so thanks, Roger, for such a great social line pitch. It does... Great marketer, Roger. But, like all of these things sort of come out and play. But some people have said that, if Craig turns out to be Satoshi, right, then that would not change how it would change how they felt about Satoshi. It would not say much about Craig, but it would lower their opinion of Satoshi if Craig turns out to be Satoshi. And this is where I think it's really interesting, all right? Because I'm just going to bring out Jesus. This has been brought up before. A lot of Christian fundamentalists said that there'd be a returning of Christ and what have you. And we have this image of Christ being this benevolent, humble human being, right? That was ordained by God and, God's only son. But we are storytelling creatures. We create stories, we tell ourselves stories to help us survive in this world. I was an animator once upon a time, and we had to learn a lot about storytelling. And if there's anything I've learned about human beings, having been a community manager for a long time, it's that we are so driven by our stories, these narratives, these cultural narratives, right? That it dictates so much without us realizing half the time. And if you are lucky enough to even be aware of how these stories, narratives actually influence your decisions, kudos to you. But the reason why I bring up Jesus is because if Jesus returned from the dead, all right, would people even recognize Jesus? Because one thing is for sure, Jesus would probably return, and would probably return in a way that might be different from what we have had in our heads or our minds. And I think that's the thing. As I said, sorry for the nose. And then the story, narrative, or the picture that we've had in our head just goes disappointed. So sometimes the myth of Satoshi, if you think about it, it's better that Craig is not Satoshi. As much as some people say they want to know who Satoshi is. Because the truth can set you free, but first it'll piss you off. Right? And I think this is something that people should think about when it comes to this whole mystery behind Satoshi and Bitcoin and etc. And you can see how even with religion, everybody's taken on their own interpretation of what God is or should be. And we now see the same thing taking place in Bitcoin. And this is how you know that Bitcoin is a force to be reckoned with, because it is a battle of beliefs, in my opinion. And as a result, people have become religious about it. And that could be a downfall as well. There are mythologies and narratives of the past, too, if you look deep enough, of how, if you look at the stories of ancient Lemuria and Atlantis, and how the downfall for Atlantis was making technology their god. If you do that, then we potentially suffer a similar fate, right? Which is the destruction of our own civilizations. So, yeah, these are this is how I see this ecosystem or this world. And so I've said, I put Craig up there. Roger Ver, I'd probably say he's like a star supporter type. The supporter type is cares very much about the people. I am actually a supporter profile too. But I get I get these guys because I've studied all the different profiles. And not just through this system, but many others as well. Myers-Briggs, astrology even, anything to do with personalities. If you're that type that likes looking into personality profile types, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I'd probably put Roger Ver in a star or supporter area, right? The idea came from Satoshi, creator, wood. Then you go into fire. Fire needs that wood to burn brighter. Then the deal maker, trader, accumulator types down at the bottom. So anybody who has their ear to the ground is talking and is always kind of talking about, it's about the users. If they use that type of language, they'll usually be these guys here. Because although these guys are about people, these ones here are also about people, but in a different way. And so, yeah, they'll often talk about customer service, customer support, user base. And then as soon as you're moving into here, these ones are steel, so they're going to have much more cold language. It's not going to be much about the people, but they could actually determine a lot about people by looking at numbers, right? They're going to be more about fine-tuning and optimizing as much as possible, instead of like these guys, which is magnifying, all right? And these ones innovating and timing, right? So these guys are going to look at one thing and multiply it out en masse. Whereas these guys here, they'd make their money off of a few things and magnify that. All right. The negative side is, as you can see on social media, fake news. The positive is on this side here. Facebook mechanic Mark Zuckerberg managed to take Facebook and scale it out for lots of people. Something very simple but scaled out. And so it is really interesting. If you're interested in this system, feel free to comment away. Let me know. I can take you through it. There is I actually do consulting in it. So I take people through and help them navigate their careers or their business using this system. So a big shout out to Roger James Hamilton for creating it. And but yeah, this is actually how I'm seeing the entire ecosystem. You can actually layer this even culturally to the different communities and sub-communities. You'll notice that if there's a sub-community talking a lot about the people matter, they're usually filled with these types. If you have a sub-community or culture of people who are talking like it's about the ideas over the people, they're usually here in the spring wood area. If you have others who are then talking about, no, it's about the timing, customer support, that sort of thing, they're there. And then if you have people who are talking more about numbers, matter more, then all the corporations are usually here. It's that winter phase, and they end up keeping keeping themselves in that phase as much as possible. But like nature, this is based off of the I Ching. All seasons must cycle through, so never get stuck on one side. See the bigger picture, and also learn how to harmonize, which is to work with the other sides, because that actually provides more balance in the long run. So yeah, with that, I hope that gives you a little bit of an update on the space in terms of what happened with the hard fork. There is a whole bunch of things coming in the new year. I think we are set for the second GFC between now and the end of next year. There are more regulations coming in, so you can see here ICOs. So the SEC in the United States are now looking to crack down on a lot of exchanges, any ICOs, saying that they are all securities. They're going to be coming down hard, and I think a lot of other countries are going to follow suit. So if you have been involved in an ICO or thinking about getting into an ICO, I'd suggest you look at it differently with your lawyer. Maybe look at the change to STOs, which is security token offerings instead. The blockchain space, in my opinion, is still here to stay. But I think that, it is starting to grow up, and I think that's a good thing. So I'm just going to switch that back. And I do think that is a good thing for everybody, because the more legitimate that we can make it, the better. And that means for easier adoption. I think what the N-Chain Craig crew have been talking about in terms of we do need to mature, I think they're right in that sense. We have been sort of playing around too much over the last 10 years. Originally, Bitcoin's competition, or enemy, if you want to call it, was extreme central banking, anything that has put stuff to the extreme. But this space is a drop in the ocean. If you look at the entire finance world globally, crypto it's gotten a lot of attention, so there's been a lot of magnification. But in terms of how blockchain has been used, there have been reports about how, especially from the corporate sector, how blockchain applications are nowhere near where the hype has been saying it is. But I think that's because it is still relatively new, and it will take 10 to 20 more years for us to see sort of mass adoption of it. So personally, I'm now in this for the long run. Setting up a marketing agency called Faya, which is specialized in the blockchain space, so blockchain communities. And if you're looking to get involved in the space, create a new project, and you're looking for community growth and management services, let me know. Let us know, and we'll take you through. Because having been involved over the last, probably more intimately over the last 2 years, it's been really interesting to see what has developed, what has unfolded. I spent a lot of time scouring all the different groups and discussions. Bitcoin Cash, these two groups definitely are at the center of everything that's going on. Ethereum are going to have some troubles, I think, next year, but we shall see. Shout out to the Ethereum community. There are a lot of great people, developers there that are working on some awesome projects. I just think we need some sturdy foundations, and I think still the best use case for blockchain is still Bitcoin as a single global currency, as sound money. So yeah, with that, I hope you have learned something today. I hope you've understood a little bit about what has gone on in the Bitcoin Cash space and how that is affected. So it has to do with the mining, because mining went from BTC to BCH just to win this hash war. There are a few other things that already took place around that. Maybe I'll share that next week. But for now, as always, remember, through patience and persistence, it will come. Thanks for joining.